Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.
This is the best of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
All right, I'm a little torn here, Stugotz. I need your help, okay? I've written down 4 notes here, 4 notes to myself on things that I wanted to talk about today, and I want to put them in front of you, but I've written these notes on the side of what is our show sheet. This is what Roy prepares, and everything Roy has put on the first page of this show sheet is emblematic of where we are as a country in the media right now. So this is what I want to ask you. Would you prefer right now to talk about a raging argument that I'm having in private with Stan Van Gundy?
Right.
Would you like to talk about Trae Young, who seems to be the first child of the Steph Curry era that we are now seeing in this transformed basketball that has reached college basketball? Would you like to talk about yesterday's kayaking story that we never got to because there was some sort of food poisoning involved, and we need to get to that story? Or would you like to talk about your observation from Monday that Michael Thomas of the Saints, there is no way that he is bad at sex?
Wow, those are great questions. I want to start, 4. I'm interested in all 4 of them. We will get to all 4 of them at some point today.
But I'm really torn, and this show sheet is making it distracting. Look at the show sheet.
Right.
Before we get to any of those 4 stories.
Okay.
This show sheet is filled with just Hollywood things that have spilled over into society that is at the height of my argument with Stan Van Gundy about changing news media and his issues with LeVar Ball. But comic book legend Stan Lee has been accused of groping and harassing the nurses who care for him at his home in Los Angeles. The nursing company is currently in a legal dispute with the 95-year-old. 95! He's got young nurses coming to his home. He's 95. And he's like, you people and your newfangled sexual harassment rules, I don't care about him. I'm a comic book legend, 95. I'm going to grope nurses.
Got maybe 5 years
What
left.
are you going to do? Tie me up in litigation? I'm 95. Send more nurses. Like that. So that's what you're dealing with up there.
Right.
Then the next thing. Well, that's Danica Patrick's new relationship with Aaron Rodgers. It's revving up fast, according to the New York Post. We'll get to that in a second. James Franco, he's on here, sexual misconduct. Michelle Williams reportedly earned about 1% of Mark Wahlberg's salary during reshoots for All the Money in the World. Everybody.
Seems fair.
No, but Wahlberg, Boston Wahlberg gets $1.5 million. Everyone else is getting $80 a day. What are you saying, Guillermo? What are you saying?
They should have all held that company hostage like he did. He said, I'm not coming back to do reshoots.
That's right. Look at this. There's more. It's just more than 100 women signed an open letter Tuesday arguing against the hashtag #MeToo movement. And then Michael Douglas is trying to get ahead of a possible story accusing him of lewd behavior. That's the whole first sheet. It's just everybody in Hollywood is groping. So anyway. And the Stan Lee one is amazing because I keep saying, man, at some point, are we going to give a wide berth to somebody in their 90s? You know, when we're talking about George Bush in a wheelchair, I honestly say this because I think it's the only place where, man, what is going on in this country in 2018 is making it so hard to talk about some of these things honestly, and it's really hard to laugh at them. Which is why I'm marveling at what Dave Chappelle is doing right now on Netflix, because it is hard to do what he's doing. He's going through social commentator, comedian, journalist, essayist. Like, what he is doing is very difficult. The degree of difficulty is very hard on it. So I'm trying to find the places where we can have some fun some fun understanding that all of this is very serious subject matter, and we all agree on the areas where people should be castigated for bad behavior. It's not about starting arguments there. It's about wondering whether 95-year-old Stan Lee cares whether anyone's going to accuse him of groping or being a sexual harasser.
I took your advice, and I caught that Dave Chappelle, the most recent Netflix special. Look, there have been better stand-up specials, but in terms of difficulty and just the craft, that's one of the better ones I've ever seen. That whole routine where he writes a joke backwards is one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen.
Mike, I want to see what Louis C.K., if Louis C.K. isn't in jail, if Louis C.K. comes out on the other side of this,
how he handles it.
I would like to see how his creativity and cleverness attacks the demons, because Chappelle, you can make the argument that there has been no one in entertainment, like real Hollywood entertainment, who's had as interesting a path as Dave Chappelle. And the idea that he can see everything that happened with him and where he fled and where he felt he was being used by white people to Bojangle, where he felt that pressure, and then goes to South Africa, goes and just like nukes everything that white people wanted to do with his black comedy, and then comes back on the other side to tell the story with his creativity. Woo, I'm here for wherever that ends up. And Louis C.K. is going to have the same thing stimulated if he can get out from under like how much all this hurts, because good God, the public shame of all of this would be something that I can't imagine handling.
I want the private feud you're having with Stan Van Gundy, since you asked me. Yeah, I'm interested in that.
There were two fascinating Stan stories there, and I'm with Stugotz. We're leaning SVG.
There are two fascinating Stan stories there?
Yeah, the Stan Lee and Stan Van Gundy, and we're going Van Gundy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going Van
you guys
Gundy.
are going Van Gundy over Stan Lee? You think me?
Well, Stan Lee wasn't an option, I don't think, of the four that you gave me.
Right.
Okay,
No,
you brought up
But that's
Stan
what
Lee.
I'm saying. You see what's happening on the show sheet. We have one hell of a canvas today to work with. I mean, we got kayaking, food poisoning. We got Trey Young. We got LeVar and Stan and me feuding. I've never had this kind. Oh, first of all, if you don't know, Stan Van Gundy is a friend of our show. Stan Van Gundy, for how many years, Mike, was he on weekly with us? He was the Miami Heat's coach. I love him dearly. He is a misery, but I consider him a legitimate friend. He's one of your friends. Do you have any of these? Like, I got two of them, and him and Kornheiser. Like, they're just miseries around what they're doing, but they love doing it, and I don't really understand it, but those are the two guys that are like that.
I got Roy.
Wasn't that long ago when we were doing shows with Stan in 2012.
But for how long? Did we do it for 2 years, 3 years?
We did it sort of in between jobs.
Okay. And so many of the people who love this show know Stan was having fun here. You could hear Stan was having fun here.
Yes.
But there was something about the misery that calls back Gruden, calls back all these guys. Gruden really surprised me, not for any other reason than usually the guys who get out, stay out if they've won a championship. And Gruden won a championship and is going back, and that one surprises me.
It's probably the $100 million.
$100 million, man.
Yeah. It's probably it.
Okay,
yeah.
And for Stan it was $35 million. But what price tag? What price tag on that? Because for Stan, it was $35 million, whatever, all the power in the organization. And he'll make the Pistons so good, but they'll never win anything because no champion star is going to choose Detroit. So he did it for $35 million. But how much happier was Stan when he was doing this with us? How much happier did he sound to you?
Well, he sounded happier. He sounded well rested. But, $35 million. I'd give up all of that for $35 million.
Well, he is deeply unhealthy right now, physically deeply unhealthy, because that job and its anxieties are a torture.
Right.
They're a torture. So you're not going to just be the coach, you're going to be the president as well. And he'd be a torture in any one of these jobs. He was a torture as an assistant coach. Like, he's just built like that. But I want to get into this argument with him that I'm having. And I just started it. And you guys know, I got a computer at home and a phone. So I had to leave in the middle of the argument to come here and do this. So I don't know. He's still arguing with my computer back home, I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's so confusing for people on the receiving end.
Yeah.
That I got to get those devices connected.
Sync them up. I'm just going to start texting
I'm an
both.
old person.
I'm an old person. We got to start texting
guys,
both at the
you
same
guys got to keep me young.
Wait, because sometimes I get a text from your email address, and you're telling me if I text it back, unless you're at your computer, you're not getting it?
That's right.
Oh, geez.
Is that your computer or your iPad?
It's my iPad, and it's at home.
I got a call from his email once, and I'm like, "Are you? Is this on purpose? You calling me from your
I can do
email?
that though. I can do
happening?
that. Look,
FaceTime audio.
Look, you guys need to keep me young on all of this stuff. as I argue with Stan Van Gundy. But I'll get to this story next. I don't even know if he wants to keep this private or not, but now it's too late.
There have been times where I've needed to reach Dan urgently, and it all depends on whether or not he's on his iPad or his phone. I don't know where the hell he is.
I never need to be reached by anybody urgently. Just never.
What about your family?
You would say that.
I'm just saying, don't have any urgent things, and we'll never have this problem.
It's quite the life you've carved out for yourself, my friend. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever. Tune in tonight as Russell Westbrook and the Thunder visit Jimmy Butler and the Timberwolves. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on most ESPN radio stations. Here's your SportsCenter update. Dan, going to need your help with a name here. Bills GM Brandon Beane believes there is a misunderstanding of what Richie Incognito said that led Jaguars defensive end Yannick. Do you remember this one? I mean, there's no way. I mean,
yeah, we did this on television the other day, yeah.
I just call him Yannick.
Ngaku.
Ngaku.
But you know what's funny about that is all of us yesterday in sports, throughout the sports media, we were all trying to fake like we knew that kid from Alabama's name. Did you see that? That happened.
Yes.
The quarterback from Alabama. Everybody in the media was scrambling to try and fake that they knew how to pronounce the kid's name. I don't feel like I've ever seen that happen in sports before, where a name pops up so literally from one day to the next that the people on television are having trouble pronouncing it.
Oh, you mean Tua Tagovailoa?
You want to try it again?
No, that was the intention. Wait, we're going to track down this audio of Stephen A. Smith.
Trying to pronounce it?
No,
but I mean, nobody. Have you ever seen that happen before?
I give him credit for going for it, man. I do. For trying to
I know
pronounce
you were
it,
pronouncing. Yes. You were just saying
Tua. Yes.
You did it.
Tua Tungo, and then it all falls apart.
But
really.
when was the last time that happened?
Where a guy burst on the scene with an odd name?
It might have been Antetokounmpo. It might have been Antetokounmpo. Where a guy, but from one day to the next, where you have to the sports media has to figure out, hey, holy bleep, how do we pronounce the guy we're all talking about today? How do we pronounce his name?
Jeremy Lin. Serge Ibaka and second-degree black belt James Johnson. Wow, I missed this last night. Wow. They were ejected after trading punches in the Heat's 90-89 road win in Toronto.
James Johnson was throwing the punches. Serge Ibaka was throwing his hands up in the air.
Got two-pieced.
Dan Batard.
Is there anyone, Serge, who refers to you by your full name?
No, I don't think so.
Can you tell the audience what your full name is?
Ibaka, Ngubila, Serge, and Jonas.
Stugotz.
Isn't your full name 10 words? Serjabulo, Lamu, Sayong?
No, that's not true. That's not my name.
Okay. I'm sorry I made that so awkward for you. Hell of a day we're finishing.
Yeah, it's okay.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
This has been true throughout history. Young people decide what is popular. Young people make it happen. You do not need Malcolm Gladwell or a modern intellectual to understand that what young people like ends up being the thing, and then young people become old people, and those old people rail against the new young people. What is happening right now with the Ball family in sports, this reckless urination that you see all over sports that's getting me into a fight with my friend Stan Van Gundy, is young people want something with LeVar Ball that old people who run the media and sports and coaching are not comfortable with. So even Steve Kerr all these people who are very liberal, Kerr and Stan Van Gundy, who are very comfortable yelling at the President of the United States from their platforms.
Right.
Aren't so comfortable with LeVar Ball yelling at them from his platform. So the Balls, in their weird, cartoonish, anarchist way, are creating chaos. And Stugotz just told me something fascinating that happened with his daughters at school yesterday. And I'm telling you, young people will make things popular. Kyrie Irving broke away from LeBron James because LeBron James is the old thing and Kyrie Irving wants to be the new thing. And look at what's happening with the Balls at the lowest level of this.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. So my daughter gets home from school yesterday, Rachel, and she's very into sports. She plays lacrosse, but she enjoys sports. She likes to watch sports. She said, Daddy, all the boys in my school, all of them, they found a private place in the school to watch a game on one of the kids' phones. And I'm like, what do you mean? What kind of game? She said, a basketball game. And I said, I need more information. Like, I'm thinking to myself, there's a basketball game being played in the middle of the day. And then she tried to pronounce Lithuania. She couldn't. And I said, oh, the Lithuanian basketball team. The Ball brothers.
She is her daughter. She is her father's daughter.
Yes.
It runs in the family.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Get some mispronunciation so we can celebrate Stugotz's fatherhood, and understanding that his daughter would mispronounce something like Lithuania is not surprising.
But she told me all the boys in her school gathered around one kid's phone, and they're all watching the Ball brothers play. And she asked them, "What are you guys watching?" And they explained to her, "We're watching, the Ball family." And she's like, "Well, who are they?" And the kids started to explain to them who they were. These kids had to watch the game. They're huge fans. And one of the kids said to my daughter, "The dad is the absolute best. You have to learn. Go ask your dad about this family. Tell him to tell you about the family. You have to pay more attention to this family. They're entertaining, and they're great basketball players." Kids love LeVar Ball's family.
Man, you can see this throughout sports, right? Jalen Ramsey announced it on behalf of his up-and-coming Jags this year. Like, he stood at his locker and he's like, the Seahawks are not the Kings anymore. We're coming for the king. We don't look at them as kings. We are a peer. Jalen Ramsey told you straight out of FSU, Jags are coming. Seattle's done. Young coming to grab old. And LeVar Ball is nipping at the heels of Luke Walton, of Stan Van Gundy, of coaching, of Rick Carlisle, of the coaching fraternity, and they're bringing young people with them, and it will make the old people uncomfortable because who the hell wants the Kardashians running this country?
Right.
They're just the Kardashians in sports. That's what the Balls are doing. They're trafficking in how to lure our dumb, young, impressionable people that make the Kardashians our royal family and make a reality TV star our actual president. And the Balls are going to be like the modern-day Addams family. They're going to be Sunday morning cartoons, these rebel anarchists with this father who's a loon.
It's amazing because I texted my nephew to make sure that it was happening elsewhere. It was weird. I did like investigative journalism once my daughter told me this. I texted him saying, "Hey, did you watch the Balls play a basketball game today?" He said, "Yeah, me and all my friends," because he's in high school. He's in 11th grade. He said, "Me and all my friends were watching it on an iPad."
Man, the Kardashians didn't have talent to become the Kardashians. It wasn't about talent.
The young people didn't make the reality star president. Maybe they did by not voting, but that was the only inaccuracy there.
No, you know what I mean. We've got a reality star president, and we were just discussing in the first hour the idea of Oprah as president of the United States because it makes sense all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, our country's obsession with celebrity. I get that. LeVar negotiated triple B's on the court. He's got an advertisement on the court. The referees were wearing Big Baller brand jerseys.
Guys, look, he's doing everything wrong. Like, he is.
But he's doing it right.
But he's doing it right. Yeah, that's correct.
I mean, he's also doing it in Lithuania.
I know.
Yeah, but he's got kids leaving their classroom to watch a game on their phone.
Too hot for America. Too hot for him. This whole ball thing is too hot for America, and kids love it.
Demand wants more money.
You're cutting class for
It's just empty nonsense. We want to. I mean, you know what? This will end. You think our education system is bad now? Wait till you see what happens when everyone's doing what LeVar Ball is. I'm pulling my kids out of school because LeVar Ball is president of the United States.
I'm explaining LeVar Ball to my daughter last night, and then I played back an interview that he did with us, and then I just showed Rachel some videos, and she goes, "Oh, I like that guy. He's fun."
Yeah. That's right. America's a bunch of 12-year-olds.
Don Le Batard.
Bill Belichick has told his players that despite the blizzard that's expected in the New England area, the Patriots will hold its final practices during its playoff bye week. No excuses for being late. Moron.
Stugotz.
Don't do that.
I'm sorry.
No
Don't excuses for being late. I'm sorry.
If he needs it, you got to give it to him. He's helping Bill.
He is displaying behavior, that of a moron. That's all I'm saying. Save it. We're good. You kick, save, and abuse.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
I'm usually very confident in what it is that we do around here and how we do it, and probably our confidence is greater than it's ever been right now. But I'm not confident about something today, and it's that I feel like for 3 days now, we have been neglecting the topic that our show should be talking about, which is the idea that you're watching an NFL game on Sunday and a receiver is doing things that make you say to yourself, there is no way that that person is not good at sex. We have spent 2.5 days since you made that comment.
Yes.
not talking about that comment, and I just believe that it's a leadership breach on my part that is offensive and should be punished by the company. Because how often have you felt watching a game at any point the thought, and I bet that person is good at sex too?
I can't recall another time.
LeBron.
I don't think I ever thought that with LeBron.
I'm not saying it happened for you. I was making an admission myself.
All right, there you go.
I didn't think it happened with you. I thought to myself, see, Gabby Union and Dwayne Wade are basically telling you they're having good sex all over Snapchat. They're doing it all over Snapchat. They're telling everyone they are a new generation famous, but let me see how I say this. They were the young thing, and now they're the older thing, but they are trying to connect with the young thing.
Right.
And so on Snapchat, they are unusually revealing for celebrities. Unusually. And they're showing you maybe not their sex life, but something around it. I mean, hell, Mike, during the holidays, wasn't Gabby Union trending for something revealed in a book about their sex life with Dwayne Wade?
Yeah, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's see what's happening in the back room there.
Yeah, that was a whole nother story.
Mike, have you ever thought while watching a game, there's no way that person is not good at sex?
Well, we just had a debate back here. I think Russell Westbrook's good at sex. Guillermo doesn't.
Well, it depends on what kind of sex you like.
Exactly.
I feel it says a lot about a person if they think Russell Westbrook's good at sex.
I think Michael Thomas is good at any kind of sex. I'm with Dan that Russell Westbrook is good at a specific kind of sex. I thought about it. You know what? I remember watching Cam Newton and thinking the same thing. Great at sex. All kinds of it.
I just like to get ahead of this. I'm not saying he's bad at sex. I'm saying he's not great at it. He's good.
Who?
Russell Westbrook.
All right.
I don't want him to think that I'm saying he's out here bad at it. I'm not saying that.
No, I understand. I know. This is not the part of this that I want to explore. I don't want to get to an actual scientific right or wrong about whether or not someone who looks like they're good at sex is actually good at sex. What I am asking you guys is if you've ever had the thought that Stugotz and I have had while watching the grace and poetry of someone playing a sport that is aesthetically pleasing and athletic, and people are attracted to athletic figures in ways that are magnetic and sexual. If you've ever thought to yourself what Stugotz did during a Saints game, that receiver, Michael Thomas, not only is good at catching footballs, but is also someone who is clearly good at sex. My question to you is, have you guys ever had that thought? Put it on the poll, please, Guillermo, in some form or fashion.
Blake Griffin.
Because you're a ginger, and you imagine yourself in the most fantasized state to look and be Blake Griffin. Yes, that is you, because you look like Blake Griffin if Blake Griffin wasn't somebody who was terribly out of shape. That is the cartoon. Blake Griffin is absolutely the cartoon superhero representation of you. That is Chris Cody. Chris Cody has not fallen far from the tree. I'm worried about our friend Greg Cody. He was a disaster during the megacast on Monday night. Mike, can you check in with Greg, please, on how healthy he is or isn't? Because it seemed like he was drunk.
People on the text machine are predictably pointing out that we look like we'd be awful at it.
Yes. Well, yes, that's not surprising.
And they're also saying that Mike Ryan, of everyone on the show, looks like he'd be the best.
He'd be, yeah.
It looks like I'm disappointing a lot of people in that respect.
Yes, but no, well, wait a minute. That's not exactly a ringing tribute of you, Mike, to be the most sexual of these particular creatures. Good
Look around,
God, look around.
Kidding me? Roy looks like he'd kill it.
Yeah. All right, so let's call our sick friend Greg Cody. Baby.
Dominique. Good.
Oh, there's no doubt.
But he's a professional athlete.
Yeah, no
Does anyone
doubt.
realize what's happening here?
Yes, I do. I realize, and somebody, at any point, feel free to come up with a white person. Feel free, at any point.
You keep spitballing some, but they keep telling me no.
Well, yeah, feel free to do it at any point. If anybody, while we're calling Greg Cody to see how he's feeling, if anybody wants to lob a white person out there so it doesn't become quite what it's been conversationally. But Stugotz, you also thought Cody was drunk on the megacast, right? Or you thought his behavior was weird?
Yeah, and I'll go Gronk, by the way.
No, he's a meathead.
How about
He
Kelce?
doesn't care about pleasing anyone but
How about Aaron Rodgers?
No, I mean, maybe Kelce. Kelce might be a good one. Kelce might be a good one.
I was thinking Julian Edelman.
Yeah,
Julian
Kelce.
Edelman.
All right,
Yeah.
so Greg Cody.
I didn't know if Greg was. I didn't think he was drunk. I knew he had a cold. I
I'm
didn't know if
worried
it was the
about him.
medication.
I'm worried about him. So just go ahead. How you doing, Greg? Like seriously, the listeners, they're also worried about you because you appeared out of sorts on Monday.
Yeah, I think I was, actually. I was...
It's Dan, Stu, and Greg Cody on ESPN Radio.
Hi, everyone. Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Lebitard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you are confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you the same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you are getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz. That's rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, Stugotz, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Dan Le Batard.
That was Will Smith's magic wand for a long time. Just get a bunch of things on the screen that people will notice, and I could just be among them. Hell, that's my trick, too. I surround myself with funny-looking and funny-acting people so that people won't notice that I'm kind of dry by comparison. Like all of you weirdos. Like, that's what I do. I'm surrounded by orcs. I'm sitting here blaming Will Smith, and all I'm doing is seeing him right in the mirror.
Stugotz.
I'm jealous now of Will Smith because he did it so much better. I'm just sitting here with you and my dad.
I'm your orc.
My dad and a troll.
That's pretty good.
That was good. I mean, I finger pointed him. I've arrived at a point where I'm celebrating jokes against me.
Yes, I just called you a troll, and Stugotz saluted me by pointing one of his sausage fingers at me.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch to Progressive could save an average of $620. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. A university panel has recommended the expulsion of Minnesota basketball player Reggie Lynch after he was found responsible for a third sexual misconduct. LiAngelo Ball scored 19 points, and LaMelo finished with 10 in their professional debuts in Lithuania. It's not a bad debut. 19, 10, teenagers.
I mean, what's the competition?
I don't know what the competition is, but LiAngelo Ball played a professional basketball game yesterday, had 19 points.
Okay.
He got paid for it. Mm-hmm. It's a good debut. And finally, a new study in the Journal of the American Medical Association concludes that 2 workouts a week, that's it, 2 workouts a week is all people need to lower their risk of cardiovascular disease and cancer compared to those who don't work out at all. Those 2 workouts make active people 41% less likely to die of heart disease and 18% less likely to die of cancer. If you're wondering, according to the study, more than 2 workouts a week doesn't provide greater benefits in this respect. Those who work out just twice a week live about as long as gym rats. I skipped sedentary, yes, Mike. Mike said that in my ear, and I skipped it, not because I was afraid of it. I asked Dan how to pronounce it on the front end, and then I crossed it out, and I couldn't make out what I rewrote.
Yeah, that is what happened. You should have heard how he pronounced it. He called it, he said it was like something closer to serendipity than it was to, I asked him, did you mean sedentary?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Anyway, for all the latest headlines and information, work out, people.
Just twice a day, though, or just twice a week.
Twice a week. That's it. Twice. And imagine if you did 5 times a week.
No, that's the opposite of that. You didn't just retain anything.
For all the latest headlines and information, tune to the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
It is amazing. Stugotz is amazing.
I mean, you would think 4 days a week would give you an 82% less chance of getting heart disease.
Did you not retain anything you just read? You just read to us that working out twice a week is the same as working out every day. You just read that to us.
I was so focused, and you have to understand how this mind works. I know you know most of it, but I was so focused on cardiovascular and that one word that I...
What's the one word? What is the one word? Say it.
Sedentary?
There you go.
I was so focused on those words. I'm not listening or retaining anything.
I'm pretty sure you said when you asked me it was serendipity.
I did. Yes, it was.
It was something like that. You jumbled. It was just
Centenary, I think.
It was
Centenary.
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
It was. Mike, just put together a group of Stugotz's mispronunciation so that people can experience a full-fledged, whichever one you want, so they can experience what a mispronouncifier Stugotz, the professional fraudcaster, is.
Warm.
Many
of my friends. Soliciting.
Soliciting.
Totality.
Superstitious.
Coach.
Coach.
I think that.
That's
Peanut. Steak sauce.
Sauce.
Histrionics. Gut over.
Get out.
Refund. Sample size.
Sample Sarge.
Martial arts.
Martian app.
Iron. Job.
Did I say Martian out?
I don't know, man. We have pulled the biggest scam in the history of sports. There should be a 30 for 30 on just Stugotz. Just the idea that
I'm down with that
failure can be rewarded as it soars into the heavens.
Don't feel bad, though, Stugotz. It happens to everybody, especially with that Alabama quarterback that came in, Stephen A. Smith. Height of the profession. He had his trouble with it.
When you look at this kid, was it Tagovailoa?
Oh, no.
Tago from Hawaii.
That is the whole network yesterday. Stephen A. Smith isn't doing anything other than speaking on behalf of all of us.
I got to hear that one more time. Was there taco in there?
No, he didn't know what he was. All of us were learning that kid's name as it happened.
When you look at this kid, was it Tagovailoa? Tago.
Hold on.
From Hawaii.
Mike.
I'm Charlie.
Mike, hold on. Mike, I want you to splice that up. And what I'd like to dissect about that is what was closer to the kid's actual name. Was it Stephen A. Smith, the way he tried to pronounce it, or was it just the stammering afterward as he realized through the stammering? Which is the closer to the pronunciation? Is the Alabama quarterback, who we all discovered together on Monday night, is this closer to his name
Tagovailoa
than this? Which one sounds more like his name? Because this was the entire network on Monday trying to pronounce this kid's name.
Tagovailoa?
That was not his name.
Right.
This is clearly a star was born Monday night. Nick Saban is the greatest we've ever seen. Yes, maybe, no. And it was on the wings of this kid.
Yeah, the second one.
Mike, what is his name?
Tua Tagovailoa.
You sure?
I think.
When was the last time this happened? Was it Antetokounmpo? When was the last time this happened where our entire sports media was forced overnight to learn someone's name that we couldn't pronounce?
Oh, Hitman. Remember Hitman made a couple of big catches for the Patriots. Humau.
Yeah, either that or Jonas Gray.
Well, is it going to be all Samoan guys? Other than Jonas Gray?
Well, Antetokounmpo is probably the most famous.
Josh Smith.
But it doesn't necessarily need to be Samoan guys. Does it have to be foreign guys? Can it just be a name that you didn't know at all from one night to the next? Like, that doesn't happen in sports very often. You may discover Grayson Allen during a college game, but it doesn't happen very often where you learn that someone is a star in one night. Like, that's one of the things that will keep Nick Saban in that job for as long as he'd want to, and it'll never go dry, is the idea that Nick Saban can do that for you in a night with your freshman kid. He could deliver you that.
Right.
That's a pretty good recruiting tool.
He's got all these advantages, every single advantage you would want. And then when he's done with all those advantages, what he pulls out of his hip pocket is a quarterback that's better than any we've seen at Alabama.
That's right. The best quarterback we've ever seen at Alabama, an Alabama franchise that keeps winning without quarterback.
Let's stash this away.
Right. That's
glass in case of an emergency.
But that's what's coming next. Like, this is a funny thing. This is a funny thing that has happened. Listen to this. Drew Rosenhaus is very successful, right? Drew Rosenhaus has had a monster career in a very difficult field as a sports agent. It's unbelievably cutthroat. It's dirty. It's ugly. Drew Rosenhaus has taken himself to the top of that profession, which is in its own way kind of what coaches do, where they ride the success of the bodies of others to great CEO positions and take a percentage or cut of what it is that they have earned on those bodies. It's also what pimps do. And so Drew Rosenhaus had all of these clients, and Drew Rosenhaus was really frustrated. The hole on his resume, on his ego, despite all that success, is, man, none of the quarterbacks want to come with me. None of them. None of the quarterbacks. Like, everyone likes that I'm kind of a concierge and I'll take less of a percentage than everyone else on your money, and I'll help you and I'll serve you, but the quarterbacks don't like that. The quarterbacks want to be treated differently. The quarterbacks want representation that's not in the shadows and slick. Nick Saban has done all the winning he's done without the quarterbacks wanting to be there. And now the quarterbacks are going to want to be there because look at what that kid got in a night. In a night, that freshman got the sport overnight, and Nick Saban delivered him that. And now Nick Saban, if he wants to stay there, he's going to get the quarterbacks too.
Yes. You might want to wait 3 years if you're a quarterback. But they got Jalen Hurts. This quarterback got Jalen Hurts. There were stories now that Jalen Hurts may transfer. He was the SEC Player of the Year last year.
Well, Jalen, but now we're upgrading. That's the last position where the CEO, you've said he's had all the advantages. He gets all the players that he wants. He's the best coach. He gets to pay all the coaches whatever he wants. He's got this giant staff where strength coaches and everyone, and he's got these facilities that are better than everyone. He can get your kids to the pros better than anyone. You're going to be playing in big games all the time better than anyone. And on top of that, now he's going to get the quarterbacks. Like, the chance to get him was before. The only thing that derails Alabama now is his ego is such that Alabama feels small time to him, and he wants one of these $200 million jobs coaching the Giants now that Gruden has set the market there.
Well, Bruce Arians said that yesterday. He knows Nick very well. He said that's his dream job.
I'm saying that's the only reason to leave, because he's built it to the highest point. Like, he could keep winning for the next 20 years there if he's going to now get the quarterbacks too. He's going to always be in the game. Hell, man, this was the year to get them. They didn't even make the SEC championship game in their quarterbacks week. Like, this was the year, and you couldn't do it this year either. So, like, the only thing that gets Nick Saban to the pros is I'm totally bored. I've done everything here. It's small time, and when I was in the pros, I failed. When I was in the pros, I didn't have a quarterback, and I failed. But here's the problem with the pros, the salary cap. He's not going to be able to have all these advantages that he had in college.
No.
He's not going to have any of the advantages. What advantages is he going to have? What advantages is he going to have?
None. You'd think he'd learn his lesson with, doing it for a couple of years with the Dolphins. He doesn't have those advantages. It's a different animal, the NFL, as opposed to college
you're
football.
Not going to, look, man, I know it seems like it's easier to be a better CEO than Mike McCarthy, but you're not going to out-CEO Belichick.
He does have one thing to accomplish in college football, and it's within that program. He can pass Bear Bryant.
I mean, he already has.
Well, I mean, he can actually pass him.
No, but the only thing that would make him, but the only thing that would make him not get that, he's going to get there, dude. He just won the championship. Look at the things that happen here. It's not just that he didn't play in the SEC championship game. It's not that they only got the opportunity to get in the playoff because Wisconsin lost. Otherwise, Alabama wouldn't have even been in the playoff. They get there. They lose to running quarterbacks. It's the only thing that beats them. They get past Clemson. Easy. They make it look easy because he's got all the best defensive players. They get to the championship game. They got a guy having a seizure or whatever on the sidelines. They've got fighting. Another teammate is fighting everybody on the sidelines. They score 0 points at the half. They have to change quarterbacks. They miss a game-winning kick. They allow a 51-yard field goal, and then they get backed up into 2nd and 26. The whole thing is ready to collapse. It's ready to collapse at your feet. Safety makes a mistake.
Yeah.
Alabama wins the championship.
Don't you guys think, like, when you think back to Alabama, Mike, don't you think people are not thinking Bear Bryant anymore? They're thinking Nick Saban. That's right?
I mean, now.
Because I was thinking, why would he want to go to the NFL? And that's a good reason. Maybe he wants to pass Bear Bryant.
Outside of a scandal or him going to the pros, Alabama is now going to be doing this for as long as Nick Saban pleases. If he wants to stay there, they can be here every year for 20 years. He's got too many of the advantages.
Yeah. Bear Bryant always has the hat, right? Yeah, he needs something. And I've noticed, anytime you see Nick Saban recently, he's wearing a crimson jacket. He's trying to establish his own thing. He needs it's on the front of his mind.
He should start smoking like a pipe.
He needs something more. No one's noticing the crimson jacket the way that I am.
This is good. He tried to dye the hair because he's dabbling in the vanities. You guys are right. He needs something. How about a monocle?
Oh, yeah, or a vest. But like
the vest has been done. No, it's been done.
Vest.
What's been done?
The vest has been done.
Tressel did the vest.
Yeah, Tressel did the vest.
He needs something that stands out because people wear jackets.
The cane.
Spurrier did the visor. What can we do?
He could wear spurs on his boots.
Oh, a midlife transformation.
Or just cowboy boots.
Yeah, cowboy boots. Yes, cowboy
boots, but with spurs is better.
Spurs,
yeah. Or just sit on a horse on the sideline.
He should do that. He should test the boundaries that way.
Alabama would absolutely let him.
What do you mean? Alabama would let him do foul things to that horse that were sexual in nature. Alabama let him do anything. I mean, Alabama, Nick Saban would survive a murder right now in Alabama. Like, the police would help him cover up the body.
Why would that be a request, though, Nick Saban? I want to do things to this horse.
I'm just saying, like, the foulest, most despicable things that you can think of. Nick Saban's now allowed to do them in Alabama, whatever he wants.
Well, lucky Nick.
Man, have you seen the politics of Alabama lately?
Awkward transition. Time for some ads.
What is that?
You know what happened in Alabama.
Don Le Batard.
Kids, listen to me. Every day somebody comes up to me, doctors, lawyers, college students. What do I need to do what you're doing? And the answer to that is hire your father and a troll.
Stugotz.
You literally just told a couple of kids that. I'm not joking.
Yes, I just told a couple of kids that in the hallway. I just realized this is a moment of huge self-loathing because I'm sitting here ripping Will Smith because he's done all of this so much better than I have. He's Will Smith. Look at me, conquering AM radio. It's not exactly the future like Netflix. Will Smith is in bed with an orc and Netflix. And I'm here fighting Rob Manfred with a troll.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Chris Sims going to join us in a half hour, noon Eastern, on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. What number are we on? 49?
49.
He will reveal to us his 49th best quarterback in the NFL.
How great was that moment yesterday? Mike, can you play any of that back? Do we have any of that from yesterday where Chris Sims is saying Blake Bortles is the 70th best quarterback in the sport and Tony Baselli comes on, that meathead from Jacksonville, paid infomercial spokesman to defend Blake Bortles? And they just went at it, man. They were savages.
It was a great moment. Sims held his own, man. I got to be honest.
I loved it. Yes. I want to do that for the rest of the time. Yeah. I want to just cause these weird beefs. I want to fill the blogosphere with Tony Baselli rips Chris Sims, calls him an idiot, says the most noble thing he's ever done is almost bleed out on the field.
We should do that as part of whatever the next stage of what it is that we're doing. It's just you and I kind of play in the corner. Hey, let's get that guy and that guy in a fight.
Instigators. Yes.
I like that idea.
Yes, so do I.
It's right in my wheelhouse. Here's your SportsCenter update. A university panel has recommended the expulsion of Minnesota basketball player Reggie Lynch after he was found responsible for a third sexual misconduct. LiAngelo Ball scored 19 points. LaMelo Ball finished with 10 in their professional debuts. And finally, representatives for Radiohead have refuted Lana Del Rey's claim that she is being sued by the band for copyright infringement, but they do acknowledge discussions with Del Rey's representatives over the clear similarities between her song Get Free and Radiohead's Creep. To set the record straight, no lawsuit has been issued, and Radiohead have not said they will only accept 100% of the publishing of Get Free. Representatives for Radiohead said in a statement issued yesterday. Seems like they're willing to play ball. For all the latest headlines and information.
What kind of contribution was that? It needed to be said.
It was an update.
It needed to be said.
It was an update to a previous end, finally, where they were not willing to play ball, and now it appears that Radiohead is willing to play ball. Needed to be said.
You're a real business insider.
For all the latest headlines and information.
What kind of analysis is that? Sounds like Radiohead wants to play ball. Is it because you have to have an opinion about everything?
Yes. For all the latest headlines and information, tune to the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
All right, well, let's see if you've got an opinion on this. This is from NBC10.com, and this is one of those headlines. Roy loves putting these in front of me with no context whatsoever.
Right.
Roy's got a delightfully dark sense of humor, and so Roy just places in front of me something that will be a headline that I will certainly want to read more of whatever it is that the headline has given me a taste of. So, prosecutors, 68-year-old New Jersey doctor hired man to kill wife after she planned to expose his drug operation with pagan motorcycle gang.
Yeah, I'm hooked in.
Yeah, right? That's like Breaking Bad.
I'm not going to read it. I'll trust that you'll read it and tell us the story.
I can do a 10-part Netflix series on this particular story right here. I can make the new Breaking Bad with just this as the starting point.
That is a fantastic headline.
Pagan motorcycle gang. How do you get to a point? I've told you this story before. I was at Michael Irvin's mother's house when the Miami Herald landed on the lawn, and the headline was police officer arrested for trying to put a hit on Michael Irvin after sexual orgy or whatever. Right. I think the headline was written better than that, but you understand.
Did you have to say that with your hands?
Well, I was uncomfortable. Swirling? It wasn't an orgy, whatever. A police officer. How do you get to the point where you are willing to hire a hitman, where you're willing to make a phone call? Have you considered this for a second? Where you're considered to have a conversation, a meeting. You have considered the idea of.
Are you asking me if I've ever considered calling a hitman?
Well, wait a minute. I'm fascinated by the idea. Movies have been made about this, about the desperation that you have arrived at when your solution to a problem is what Ray Carruth did, or what Tanya Harding did, where your solution is to harm someone else.
I'm just so confused with the process. How does one find a hitman?
Correct. Right. Yeah. Like, that's the starting point. This is the conversational path I'd like to go down. We live in Miami. We are surrounded by all sorts of malfeasance. I don't know how I would go about hiring somebody who I would want to harm someone else.
I mean, certainly Craigslist has its stigma, but if there's a more specific way, I'm prepared to be totally blown away and mortified by how many people know.
Well, Guillermo, put it on the poll.
I think it's easier than you think. I think you just Google a hitman and you're good.
All right, Guillermo, put it on the poll, please.
I'm doing it right now.
At Levitard Show. You continue to look like a very sick Scott Van Pelt. What are you squeezing into what used to be your teeth? What is that? Is that Go-Gurt again you're eating? Go-Gurt?
It's Go-Gurt.
All right. Put it on the poll. What do you think, Stugotz? Put it on the poll. Do you know how to go get a hitman? Because I don't know. How the hell do you know how to get a hitman? You think Stugotz is actually Googling here how to get a hitman?
And I'm uncomfortable. I'm doing it on a company computer and network, and what came back is contract killing. And listen, I'm not looking to kill anyone. I'm just trying to get some information for the show. I have answers on how to hire a hitman.
All right, let's go. Let's hear this. Now, the Anarchist Cookbook details very specifically how to build an atomic bomb. There are instructions on the internet. And go see that documentary if you haven't, by the way, about the
Anarchist. And everything's on the internet.
An atomic bomb or just a regular bomb?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Not an atomic bomb. A bomb. I'm sorry.
That's a fine. Yeah.
That's a fine. Anarchist Cookbook, how to build a bomb. An atomic bomb is a totally different thing. My fault.
I feel like North Korea would have gotten their hands on this book.
That's correct.
A while ago.
It's more like a car bomb, a pipe bomb, a bomb of any kind. How you could cause a riot. But go see that.
Certainly not any kind. We've just detailed one kind that you won't find.
Not atomic, correct.
It looks like to hire a hitman, it's $30,000 minimum for a hit. And that also includes expenses. And the expenses could be anywhere $500 to $5,000.
Well, see, now this is a question I would have. Now, see, once we go down this labyrinth, first of all, you're just checking some website.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Wait a minute. Expenses? There's going to be a tax form attached to this, really?
This is written
expenses. Somebody's going to request a per diem on being a hitman. I spent $42 today at a Burger King, and I got some sushi at Walgreens.
You know what, Dan? Sometimes, and you should keep your receipts, but sometimes if you're a hitman, you're just sitting around waiting. It's a waiting game. You're waiting for the person to come out. You're waiting for the right time for the hit. You know what I'm saying? It's a waiting game. You have to buy yourself some coffee and lunch.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Does a hitman bill you for expenses?
Now, this is written by Rex Farrell, who I guess is like a leading authority on hitmen.
Let's get him on the show. Allison, I'd like to get him on the show, please. Let's talk to him. Or somebody who can answer some of my questions.
Well, I want the premier authority.
Okay, but this is, wait a minute. That was just Andrew Luck.
Oh, if I'm going to kill a guy, I want the premier authority. So I would never kill Jack Doyle.
Why did Andrew Luck make an appearance? I heard Andrew Luck in there.
They all live inside me.
I mean, this guy wrote a book on Hitman.
Aren't you
could
curious?
say he wrote the book on Hitman.
Aren't you curious about? I don't think I could find getting a Hitman.
He did write the book.
He wrote the book.
Yeah, Rex Farrell. Hitman, a technical manual for independent contractors.
All right, well, get this guy on the phone. I want to find out about this. This can't be a curiosity that only I'm interested in. Like, how?
Is he still with us? Because this book was published in 1983.
Oh, we should check.
There's got to be all sorts of new tricks of the trade.
There hasn't been a replacement to come in and be heir to the throne on the Book of Hitman.
You got to think the iPhone's changed everything.
Right.
You can't just... In 1983, you couldn't even Google how to find a Hitman.
So wait a minute. Is Stugotz's Hitman information dated? It was $30,000 in 1983? Is that dated?
Well, we need to find out if this guy's still alive.
You're not even accounting for inflation.
Guillermo, put it on the poll.
Minimum $30,000. Depends on the job.
Hold on. Guillermo, put it on the poll.
Felt so good saying that.
Hold on. Stugotz, this is a good poll question.
Okay.
Is Hitman a booming business in 2018? Like, is it a career choice? Put this on the poll. Is Hitman a booming business in 2018? The guy who wrote the book on Hitman is on with us next if we can find him and he's not dead.
Dan Le Batard.
Mike, for some reason, I saw you in the room there working on what I thought was your Andrew Luck. I wasn't sure. I walk into the room, and of course, what they're talking about is who in sports would you call to rescue your life if you were in a threatening situation and feel like you were going to actually be rescued. And so he's working on his Andrew Luck. So let's go ahead and play it out.
Stugotz.
Well, it's not something I want to do, but absolutely it'll save your life. I'll rappel down this cave. I'll neutralize the threat. We'll secure the perimeter. Get you back to your beautiful wife. Happy wife, happy life. Jack Doyle.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Stugotz, we have stumbled upon a really dark nether world in the internet here. Stugotz, wait until you hear what's happening now. We have just arrived at an underbelly that we accidentally stumbled into. Yeah, I mean, this is an actual Hitman book.
Yeah.
And so, of course, you can't just get the author on. The author's going to have to write under a pseudonym. He's not going to be someone you could just get on. And evidently, this is a book that hitmen use. That is a book that actually teaches you. It's the equivalent of the Anarchist Cookbook.
So there is no Rex Farrell, is what we're trying to say.
Well, there's a Rex Farrell, but his real name's not Rex Farrell.
Her real name.
Rex Farrell, right. His or her name. That's correct. Thank you for that correction.
Yeah, research has led us to believe that this was originally written by some housewife in the 1980s.
So give us the information on Rex Farrell's writing career. The pseudonym Rex Farrell's writing career has produced 2 books in 1983.
2 books. Hitman, obviously, and you can purchase that on Amazon for like $60. And there's one other book when you click Rex Farrell. How to Rip Off a Drug Dealer. Now, if you want to get this paperback, it's going to cost you just short of $3,000.
Is that right?
Wow. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
I mean, he's got the info, man.
Wait a minute. Is that the most expensive book on the internet? $2,900 for a book on how to rip off a drug dealer?
There's only one used copy of it on Amazon.
And you're telling me that's a real cost? Wait a minute. That can't be a legitimate cost of a book. That has to be one crazy eBay bid or something. No?
There's only one book available on Amazon. It is a used copy, and the person has listed that for $3,000.
How to Rip Off a Drug Dealer.
Yeah.
But it pays for itself if it's valuable.
No, I get
information.
it. I get why it would be an interesting book. Also seems kind of dangerous.
Well, it's one of a kind. I would jack the price up, to be honest, because if you really want to rip off a drug dealer, you'd be willing to pay anything to do it. Like, if you're in that kind of spot where you got to rip off a drug dealer, you'll pay $5-10 grand.
Yeah. Have you considered the idea, though, that once you've purchased this book for $3,000, the joke's on you. They just taught you how to rip off a drug dealer. The only one who would buy that book is a drug dealer. They just gave you $3,000 for a book. They just ripped you off.
You know that Amazon suggests Amazon's.
It could just be. It sounds like a scam business you could run. Just send people a piece of paper. Here's your book on how to rip off a drug dealer. I just ripped you off for $3,000.
You open it, it's just a mirror.
That's right. That's correct. They say they don't even send you a book in the mail. They just send you a mirror.
I am on it.
You know how Amazon recommends other authors you might like if you searched for this author?
Yeah.
So I'm doing that, and I'm clicking around, and I see Bradley J. Steiner, and one of his books is called The Death Dealer's Manual. That sounds interesting. There's also The Poor Man's James Bond. How you can make all the gadgets that James Bond had on a budget. And also Below the Belt, Unarmed Combat for Women, and No Second Chance, Disarming the Armed Assailant.
Mike, is it possible as part of our community effort that whatever the books are that we buy some of these books and send them to listeners just as prizes? Like as part of our budget, can we sort of what is the one? How to disarm someone below the belt?
John Minery has written a book called Kill Without Joy, the complete how to kill book.
Well, not that one. We wouldn't send that one to anybody. I was just thinking about how to disarm below the belt would be less edgy.
So you want to buy these up and then give them away as prizes?
As gifts, yes, weird gifts that our show gives.
Here's another book, Pick Guns.
Hold on a second. Are we going to have on, within the next hour and 10 minutes, somebody who can either talk about this book or answer some questions for me about how one goes about hiring a hitman and whether a hitman charges expenses, whether a hitman gives you like a per diem cost of what it's going to cost for him to go to the deli every day?
Chris Sims.
What about Chris Sims?
That's our expert.
That's our guy. Yeah. You know they've looked into it on Nance.
What a great scandal that would be. If the Sims family had looked into a hitman on Jim Nance because he ran off with his new young love, Tony Romo, whose enthusiasm for the game is infectious.
It
really is. He's a giggling school child, just delighted by football, being able to watch it up there.
I don't care if what he is saying doesn't make sense, because at times he says stuff that makes no sense. His enthusiasm for the game.
Yes.
It makes me feel like he's enjoying it as much as I am.
Yes. Well, more so. Yeah. Tony Romo is giving off
getting paid.
That he understands it so well that he is excited. No, but he is what Tony Romo is, and this is always special when you can get it in broadcasting, is he himself was something of an artist who is now moved by art. So he's on television, and he understands this all a little better than we do.
Yeah.
He understands how hard it is to be a quarterback a lot better than all of us do.
Correct.
And so when he watches someone else do it well, he's like a 6-year-old.
Yes.
He's like a 6-year-old describing, like, can you believe what Aaron Rodgers just did there?
He doesn't even say it. Sometimes he'll just make sounds. Like,
Right. And it makes us love him more than we love Nance. This is what's happening. And it makes Nance crazy. Because it makes America love Romo more than Nance. Nance is just getting in Romo's way. Nance is a cardboard cutout of a starched broadcaster for a bygone time. And Romo is a 6-year-old pooping in the playpen.
We had a caller on our tip line update us on the New Jersey Hitman story and say that they go for $20,000 in New Jersey, so $20,000.
All right.
Let's set up
a tip line. I want more information about how, if this show wanted to hire a hitman, how we would do it. Because I'm confused by these stories of people reaching out to hitmen.
Who'd we take out, though? Like, who we hire?
No, let's not think about that for a second.
All we have to do is book them on the show.
All right. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, we kill them. How many have we killed so far?
There's Lenny.
Adam West.
Bill Paxton.
Alan Thicke.
Oh, wow.
Alan Thicke. What happened? You were going to find me?
Yep.
Don't forget, you can hear more of my sons Dan and Stu weekdays starting at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU. Dan Le Batard.
You're just allowed to give me one word on what you think. I tell you, American flag, you give me one word on what you think. Go ahead, Chris. You're only allowed one word.
Freedom.
That's what I was going to go with.
Stugotz.
Guillermo.
Bald eagles.
What?
2 words.
Well,
I mean, God, $2.
That's a fine.
$2. I mean,
That's a fine.
Do you realize how hard it is to be that bad with 2 words, man?
apple pie.
I got 2 words for you.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Chris Sims expected to join us here in just a second on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The Seattle Seahawks have fired offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell. It's almost a fine for me. The Green Bay Packers are expected to hire... That might as well be his name.
What are you laughing at? I don't know I don't think anybody knows what you're laughing at.
Oh, Mike knows, and he's going to laugh in a second with me. The Packers are expected to hire Mike Pettin as defensive coordinator.
I was wondering what happened to him.
He was the Browns defensive coordinator.
No, he disappeared after that. No, he's the Browns head coach.
Oh, he's the Browns head coach. That's right. He's the Jets defensive coordinator for a while.
I can't believe how much the name Mike Pettin worked for you comedically.
Because we experienced Mike Pettin years.
Yes. I mean, Mike and I. Listen, if you're a bad team, any bad team has had Mike Pettin on there.
But do you realize that you were laughing at that joke before anyone else got it? That the Packers have hired blank.
It's never happened before where I'm laughing before you.
And do you realize in a couple of years he'll be a head coach candidate because of Aaron Rodgers?
100%.
Yeah, of course.
How does Mike McCarthy... Aaron Rodgers likes Mike McCarthy, right?
It has to be that. It has to be that.
Because everyone else has been fired.
Aaron Rodgers must want Mike McCarthy. My guess is what's happening there, that McCarthy actually leaves Aaron Rodgers alone on offense and lets him do whatever the hell he wants, basically.
And Aaron likes that.
And Aaron likes that, and that's why Mike McCarthy is still employed.
I have an update on Sam Van Gundy and our interview request. If he wants to talk about this, he is passed.
What did he say? Was he mean, or is he...
He said no, thank you.
Can you ask him if he's mad at me?
It would be kind of weird for him to hop on ESPN with an ESPN personality and discuss LeVar Ball,
right?
To discuss his boycott on ESPN, discussing LeVar Ball.
That's right.
But it's with a friend, though.
Right. All right. I'll argue with him at home then. I'll relay back whatever he said and betray him.
Mike Pettin is back. And finally, U.S. Airlines are making more money selling miles than seats. Yeah, makes sense. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Guillermo, put that on the poll. Do you find it shocking that U.S. Air is making more money selling miles than seats?
I can see the confusion because there is a U.S. Airlines and a U.S. Air, but this is all airlines in the United States. They're making more money selling miles than selling seats.
All right, put that on the poll, please.
People love miles, man. They love collecting miles.
People love Chris Sims on our show. Chris Sims was on yesterday. He and Tony Baselli got into a raging war. It was great. Great radio.
I got to tell you, it was great radio. I went back and listened to that segment, and because I thought Baselli may have been mean to Chris Sims, and maybe Chris
Chris gave it right back to him.
Chris really held his own.
Yes,
man.
He did. All right, well, let's, Mike, play me the long version of this before we get to Chris Sims, 49th ranked quarterback in the NFL. Let's just revisit this. This happened yesterday. Chris Sims says that Blake Bortles is the 70th best quarterback in the NFL. Tony Baselli, former Jag, famous Jag, just went after Sims.
I think after your stupid comments, I might know more about quarterbacks because guess what? Dave Caldwell isn't making the decision, idiot. It's Tom Coughlin. He's in charge down here now.
Wow.
So what do you say
he
about
was a little stuck.
Take that and put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Whoa!
That's fine. Listen, I'm not going to mess with you, but that's just the way I feel. I studied this hard, but I can also tell you that most of the coaches didn't want your job in Jacksonville last year either because they didn't want to deal with Blake Bortles either.
That's
so
true. That's true.
And guess what? Most of those coaches are at home right now watching the playoffs as we play Sunday. Obviously, you better watch the film a little closer.
No.
Tony, I mean, every quarterback in high school football would have hit some of those throws last week. I watched it.
Sims, are you sweating at all? Because I
will be sweating if I see Tony in person. I promise you I'll be walking
Sims is right. Sims is right about this. He's got Sean Mannion 6 spots ahead of Blake Bortles, Baselli.
Dan, he is not right. And first of all, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You wouldn't know how to evaluate any football player.
Wait a minute. Baselli, are you still taking checks from the Jaguars? Yes or no?
That has nothing to do with this conversation.
Yes or no? Answer my question, Baselli. Yes or no? You're taking checks personally from Coughlin to do this infomercial stuff, selling Blake Bortles when we all know he stinks. That's silly. I knew it. You've been smoked out, Baselli. I got Baselli, you wolf cartoon egg. I got you. How many millions are they paying you to be Baghdad Brewski and sell your soul to defend Blake Bortles when you know very well that he stinks? Say it before we get out of here. I want to bully the bully. Baselli, admit on the paycheck that you have from the Jags that Bortles stinks. Say it.
No, he's not great.
Baghdad Baselli! He's not great.
The best part, you gotta love a guy. Because, Stan, you know this is not common. Baselli just laughing at you saying
laughing,
that about
just
him.
laughing. So Sims is right about everything. You can check him out, Bleacher Report.
I think this will bolster Sims's argument more than anything. You have a Titan safety who came out and said yesterday that he wants to make Tom Brady look like Blake Bortles. Bortles is one of the 8 quarterbacks left, and people are still making fun of him.
Bortles is being used as a slur by others. We're going to turn Tom Brady into Blake Bortles is bulletin board material because Blake Bortles is poop. So Chris Sims joins us now. Seriously, that's the most disrespectful. When does that ever happen where a guy is that disrespectful to someone like Blake Bortles?
Demonstrates the on-field behavior of poop.
I'm not saying Blake Bortles is poop. I'm saying this defensive back is treating him like he's poop. I'm not saying he's poop. He stinks, but he's not poop. Poop stinks. Chris Sims with us on ESPN Radio. Who's 49th? Who's 49th, Chris? The 49th best quarterback in the NFL.
I mean, I just want to make sure, is Stugotz going to, sick anybody else on me today before I make this comment? He's got any more bullies that want to come on and take shots at me?
Listen, man, you're just saying what you're saying, and people are texting
me. I know, I'm having fun.
All right.
Good. All good. I enjoyed it.
Right.
But number 49, to get to the point, Teddy Bridgewater, Minnesota Vikings.
Wow.
That's low. That's low. You got him lower than I thought you'd have Teddy Bridgewater. I thought Teddy Bridgewater would be a little bit higher.
I got to take injury into account, right? So I do take all those things into account when I made this list, and the fact that he hasn't played since the playoff.
Oh wow! Wait! So you're saying that Teddy Bridgewater on crutches is 21 spots better than Blake Bortles? Is what you're saying?
Well. No, he's off the crutches, just a knee brace. But yes, with the knee brace, he's better than Blake Bortles. Sorry, yes.
So if Bridgewater were the quarterback for the Jaguars this year, they'd still be one of the final 8 teams. Well, I guess no, because you would have Chad Henne. He's also ahead of Blake.
Well, Chad Henne's 51st. Jacksonville's got 2 quarterbacks worth, and Minnesota's 3rd quarterback.
It's safe to say that there are probably 3 Minnesota Vikings quarterbacks on this list ahead of Blake Bortles. And now that we're at 49, we might start seeing some starters starting to pop up.
Yes, all right. I'm very excited about where this list goes. All right, Bleacher Report is where it's at. Check out Chris Sims. Chris, is there anyone else that we could get who would be a bulldog that thinks some of the things that you've said are stupid and they want to attack you on air? If you want to give us that ammunition, we'd be happy to bring that person on with us tomorrow.
I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's plenty of people out there. People don't like the truth, they just don't like it sometimes. They want to just be fed their mainstream media bullcrap, and then when the truth gets thrown at them and it just puts a chink in their armor, they can't get over it. And I don't really care what everybody thinks of me. I work hard at this, like I've told you guys a million times. I study it. I do the draft. I do everything. I gave Blake Bortles an F- when they picked him at the number 3 pick at that point. I mean, one of the big things for being a quarterback in the NFL is to be able to throw the football, and that is not something that he's natural or good at.
I mean, F-
is the Wildcat.
I'm with you. I know. You're so right on all this.
I'm thinking of former Jaguars that we could bring on that would like Baselli did yesterday, but I think they all agree with Chris.
Yeah, F- though, Chris. That's so strong. F-.
Well, it wasn't against Blake Bortles. It was the fact that they picked that player at the number 3 pick. You got anybody you can basically pick in the whole NFL draft. And yes, they took a quarterback, which happens a lot in our world right now, okay? Just quarterbacks taken because, in college they put up good stats and their team won. So that must have been all the quarterback. That's right. Yeah, I know. Matt Leinart throwing the ball 4 feet to Reggie Bush and then him running 80 yards, that was the reason USC was winning. I mean, so we lose the fact, like, Tim Tebow throwing the ball into the flat for Percy Harvin and he makes 9 people miss and runs for 70 yards and we go, oh, what great quarterback play. That's amazing. And people lose the context of what is going on there with some of those things at times.
Khalil Mack, right after Blake Bortles.
What happened now? What did Khalil Mack do?
I'm just saying, the players the Jaguars could have had, instead, Chris said they had anywhere.
You meant drafted after, not drafted. Went after in terms of attack.
Yeah. Odell Beckham Jr. was drafted after him.
Right. And I'll just say this. I think the reason you see backlash from players in the NFL on Blake Bortles, it's not necessarily Blake Bortles. What makes NFL players mad is the fact that, let's say, the 70th best quarterback is making 3 times more money than people like Cam Chancellor. So that's when you want to piss defensive players off. You give a quarterback all that money, he gets all that attention. Defensive players hate quarterbacks as it is already, but then they go, man, that guy shouldn't even be playing, and he's making 3 times more than me. That will launch a sounding board for defensive players in the NFL.
That's great stuff. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow, sir. Thank you. I have grown to really like this guy and the way that he thinks about things. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, guys. Be good. Have a good day.
Derek Carr went in the second round.
Yeah.
Same draft, and so did Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, no, well, there's actually an interesting conversation to be had here around this spoofing that we're doing, which is the idea of once you're given an opportunity at the very top of the food chain, it's hard to lose it. And a lot of people right now could be getting the opportunity Blake Bortles is getting and be deep in the playoffs and have an opportunity here to knock off Tom Brady. And Blake Bortles is really bad at his job, man. They're just very simple things that Chris Sims can see, Stugotz. That play in the Alabama game, the play in the Alabama game at the end, Chris Sims can see that play and see that that's not a great play by the offensive player. It's fine. It's a great mistake by the safety in that situation that allows that champion to be a champion.
Right.
And Chris Sims can see, he can separate Blake Bortles winning from how poorly he played this weekend. Blake Bortles deserved to lose a playoff game and didn't just because his teammates are the best in the sport.
I understand that, but what do you do? He had like a month stretch where he was the best quarterback in the NFL. What do you do with that?
No, but you could do it on occasion. There are other people who have done that for 4 games. You can do that for and look, maybe Blake Bortles has turned over a new leaf, but I didn't see it this weekend.
3-game stretch where he had 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had a 143.7 rating, 123.7, 119.8.
Stugotz, what I saw in the playoffs
check the teams he played with.
In the last game that Blake Bortles played against the Buffalo Bills is the most incompetent quarterbacking I've seen in the sport this season, where he's just running for his life. He's not making any reads. It was remedial. It was a remedial performance by a professional quarterback.
Dan Le Batard.
It's crazy how far this program has fallen, and now we do this thing, and man, do I hate this thing.
I love this thing.
Stugotz.
Do you even know what I'm going to say?
I think so. I hope so. I have a feeling, Dan. I have no idea.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
This ape Boselli continues to text Stugotz here.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do about him. I really like him.
He loves you.
I really like Tony Boselli, but he thinks that he's got some secrets about how good Blake Bortles is.
He said Dan has no idea what he's looking at. Tell him to stick to his morality issues of watching football. And he went on to say Chris Sims wants no piece of me.
Well, that's true. Nobody wants a piece of you, Boselli. We all know that you have thighs for arms. Nobody wants a piece of you.
Boselli is one of the most intimidating people.
I mean, man, Jason Taylor just went into the Hall of Fame. He's a menace. He played with a catheter in his heart during a game and almost lost his leg while playing football. He'd be scared of Boselli and still scared of him in real life when he walks near him or gets a whiff of he's somewhere around.
He has nightmares about it.
Jason Taylor's told us stories of getting stuck in Tony Boselli's belly button for entire quarters. So let me stick to my moral issues here and bring in Mina Kimes, ESPN The Magazine, our friend, because she has pointed out that I've struggled with some of these issues. And so I want to laugh at Stan Lee and the idea of 95-year-old comic book legend Stan Lee being accused of groping and harassing the nurses who care for him in his home in Los Angeles. According to the Daily Mail, the nursing company is currently in a legal dispute with the 95-year-old Marvel creator after nurses claimed he asked for bleep in the shower and to be pleasured in the bedroom. Quote, he doesn't seem to care what people think of him. He's lost his filter, a source told the tabloid. There's been a stream of young nurses coming to his house in West Hollywood, and he has been sexually harassing them. He finds it funny. The source added, he's also very handsy and has groped some of the women. It's unacceptable behavior, especially from an icon like Stan. Let it be stated for the record, it's unacceptable behavior for everyone.
It's awful behavior, but this guy, he just stopped caring.
Well, he's 95 years old. Yep. And so, Mina, what do I do with this story? Like, how can I have fun? How can I, please help me figure out a way to have fun around the story of, like, how old is male privilege going to extend to where Stan Lee thinks he's entitled to nurses just coming to his home?
This reminds me, I feel like we were talking about how old you have to be to call women broads. I think this was before any of the sexual harassment stuff happened, right? When we had that conversation about how, like, 95-year-old guys would be able to call them broads. I was thinking about this, Dan, the other day, because especially with regards to the old guys, and I was thinking about how, well, we trust, because somebody was saying, I can't remember which of it's so hard to keep track, maybe it was Charlie Rose, about how, like, well, he grew up in a different time, and, you know, how can we expect him, maybe it was Richardson, actually, to not keep tabs on changing environment and culture. And I was thinking, well, we trust these guys to change with the times on everything else. Like, they run corporations and governments, and they have to keep track of, or I guess, evolve with the times. So how are we not expecting them to change on this stuff, too? Like, it seems like a weird
it's interesting you should say that, though, Mina, but I do believe there's ageism throughout corporate America, and we don't trust these people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s to do some of this stuff. We stop trusting them at a certain age, and I just like to know, where is the age? Where can I put the age where, like, we just sort of have to grandfather in some creepy, maybe not criminal, maybe never criminal behavior, but really bad behavior that's not acceptable, but somebody's just too old to have to live by those rules? Because the whole death of Hugh Hefner thing, that was weird to see the way that was celebrated.
Right. Well, maybe there isn't. I mean, our conversation last time is I was saying, you know, I used to find this really funny. I used to think it was really, like, the idea of a woman walking into a room and an old man is naked, like, was inherently funny to me until I started thinking about it through the perspective of the woman and not me as an observer finding a situation physically funny. And maybe that's just what we have to do now. I mean, this is a weird case, Stan, because essentially Stan Lee hasn't had accusations before, right? And maybe not weird is the wrong word, but I feel like there's a spectrum between us saying, well, he hasn't been accused before, he didn't do it, and saying, well, we need to wait for due process. Like, we don't really know what happened. I think it's okay to say that right now.
All right, well, let me ask you this, though. I mean, let's make it more personal to you. Let's say, for whatever reason, you had chosen nursing as a career and whatever made it so that you now had to take care of 95-year-old Stan Lee. And you know all that man's history, and you know that he's dark and edgy and everything else because you're a fan of Stan Lee. And now he's doing inappropriate things at 95 that are clearly sexual harassment. How are you experiencing that? Threatened or funny?
Threatened. It's horrible. I mean, imagine, this person has hiring and firing power over you, and you have to walk into a disgusting situation. Again, assuming this is happening, it's horrible. I mean, it's hard for me to even think of an analog for a man, but I can't. When you kind of think about it from that perspective, it's kind of hard to find it funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where my blind spot would be. But that's where my blind spot would be.
Of course.
Because I can't imagine that as anything other than Stan Lee being totally non-threatening. He's 95.
Right, but it still doesn't feel good if you're walking through that door.
Right?
I am wondering.
No, and if your job relies on it.
But maybe you're not laughing at it, Mina, but is there a party that says, hey, just an old man who's lost his filter. He doesn't care anymore.
Lost his filter? Maybe his mind.
Yes.
Well, I think that it's obviously less threatening on a physical level, right, than a young man, because you're not as afraid of him. So I think it's fine to acknowledge that, but kind of going, like, this man's your boss.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's no disputing that part of it.
You got to put up with it, right?
Yes.
I mean,
that's the problematic part, of course. Or you could do what these women have done justly and stop it immediately by making a huge scandal for Stan Lee. I assure you that whatever nurses come next will not be mistreated by Stan Lee. Like that's what's happening in this country right now.
Right, which is the standard is changing. But will the next old person remember Stan Lee?
That's correct. We have a problem with the old people, Mina. We'll tackle it with you next time. The old people are something of a conundrum.
You've become our old person expert.
Just call me next time. I'm like the Ron McGill for sexual harassment.
Ron McGill for sexual harassment among old people. Where are we allowed to laugh? All right, thank you, Mina. George Anastasia, an expert in seedy underbellies. We'll talk contract killings next.
Dan Le Batard.
Bleep yeah! Bleep yeah!
Stugotz.
Bleep no! Bleep no!
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. The Green Bay Packers are expected to hire Mike Pettin as defensive coordinator. Steelers safety Mike Mitchell says that the Steelers can beat the Patriots. We can play them in hell. We can play them in Haiti. We're going to win. When you play them in hell, make sure you say hi to Art Briles for me. Wendy's.
Oh, you got the joke off, and then you did the sing-song. You did the Trey Wingo. Moving on. You got the joke off.
Yeah.
The Art Briles joke was a good one.
I need a transitional. You're right.
Yeah,
yes.
You did the sing-song radio Wednesday. What was the word you were going to say there?
Wendy's.
Oh, Wendy's. Okay.
Let me try that again real quick.
We found delights usually at the end of when you start singing to stall in your broadcasting voice.
When you play him in hell, make sure you say hi to Art Briles. Rolling on. Wendy's 4 for 4 is better than ever.
Yeah, it is.
Rolling on a Sports Center on a Wednesday. Wendy's 4 for 4 is better than ever. Now you have 8 different sandwich options, along with nuggets, small fry, small drink, all for just $4. Great deal. Pick from favorites like the Double Stack, Junior Bacon Cheeseburger, Spicy Chicken Go Wrap, and many more. Available at participating Wendy's for a limited time. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to the Sports Center on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
All right, we are attempting to find this gentleman who is an expert on contract killings. I don't know how or why he's an expert. We were talking about this because a 68-year-old doctor in New Jersey tried to put a hit on his wife after she discovered that he was part of a drug conspiracy with a pagan motorcycle gang. Mm-hmm. And so we just got to talking about how would one go about hiring a hitman. I don't even know where to start. I don't know where to start on the idea of I've got a problem so large I have to eliminate it by either hurting it or killing it.
Right.
But the problem is so large that now where do I begin solving that problem? Who do I call? Where do I go?
Yes. And the least shocking thing about this guest is that he's hard to find.
Okay. We found him, though. Mike has tracked him down. Allison has tracked him down. Who is this guest? Please help me understand what I'm walking into here.
This is George Anastasia, and he's one of the foremost experts on the mafia, written about them, knows everything there is to know about the mafia, and in turn can possibly shed a little light on how to get a contract killer.
Okay, but here, and I will talk to him about this, but it's certainly, if you're in the mafia, I understand how mafiosos go and get contract killers. That's not really what I want. What I want to know is how I would get a contract killer. Maybe George can help us with that.
How the common person, if Dan or I decided we want to take someone out today, what is that?
Like, how does one conduct that business? Where does one start, George? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. I mean, if you're in the mob, it's not really contract killing. I mean, they're mob guys that are hitmen. That's part of their job. They don't get paid extra for a hit.
That's right. There's no bonuses. Right. You go do your job. Yes. That's what you exist to do. Yeah. That's right.
Right. But in this particular case, this instance down in New Jersey with this doctor hired these 2 hitmen, I mean, he was dealing with a biker gang, the Pagans. He was involved apparently in, the bikers are heavily involved in opioids, and a couple doctors get involved. They run pill mills. They write scripts and they get the pills. Huh. The Pagans.
Oh, okay. I hadn't seen that. I didn't understand that part of the story. Nice, good expertise. Thank you, expert George.
Yeah. So I mean, this is kind of the second case involving a doctor where I've seen this, where this doctor basically is dealing in this underworld where these biker guys are, and there are guys in the outlaw world, the bikers and others, who are willing to do almost anything for money. And so, he's able to suggest, will you take out my wife if I pay you X amount of dollars? That's the allegation in this case. And I think you just can't go in the Yellow Pages and look up Hitman.
This is why we're calling you, George. George, you figured this out, George.
George, listen to me.
George, you realize our dilemma here, right, George? We understand that the Yellow Pages doesn't work for this.
I walk out of the studios today, George, and I decide I want to put a hit on someone.
That's right.
What is the first thing?
Right.
Give me the
what
steps.
does he have to do? Right. Yes, go to a biker gang, go to the mafia. Thanks for nothing, George.
I know I can't go to the Yellow Pages,
George, thanks for nothing. No Yellow Pages or go to the mafia or go to a motorcycle gang. Yeah. What else you got for me?
No, I mean, think about it. I mean, even at that, if you walk out of your door and go to a biker clubhouse, they're going to say, "Who the hell are you?" They're not going to do business with you. This was a situation where you already had a business relationship. The allegation.
Okay, but you're telling me, you're telling me the layman cannot just get a hitman. That's what you're saying. It's not possible for
you need to network or
you need to get into that world, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen it happen where somebody thinks he's talking to a hitman, and it's an undercover because they don't really know what the hell they're doing.
All right.
And, they start feeling around and they end up.
George, I got to be honest with you. You haven't been helpful at all. I don't have any earthly. I still don't. I believe that you're an expert. I do believe that you're an expert. But what we're asking you is the person listening to this right now who's just sitting there next to his wife, Mildred.
Yeah.
And he's saying, how do I get a hitman? I hate my boss. I hate him for 50 years. I hate my boss.
Well, maybe Mildred is thinking the same.
Right. Everyone's thinking this. What do they need to do? What is the next step?
I think they need to go to counseling.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Right. Thank you, George. Thank you for being on with us. That is our expert on how. Thank you, George, on how to get a hitman.
Now, perhaps we want to talk mafia. We'll bring George back again.
Right, or pill mills or opioids, and motorcycle gang seems to be an area of expertise as well. Yeah. We'll bring on our good friend George at a later time to tell us how to commit crimes. But right now, we are no further along than we were before we picked up the phone and called George.
I think we're further back.
I don't feel like we're closer.
We've never been further away.
No, I feel like we all knew that. Go to a motorcycle gang or the mafia.
Yeah, but they're not just going to accept you. So you're probably going to have to grow out some scruff on the beard, maybe put in an earring, get a tattoo, wardrobe change, certainly need a vest.
He didn't give us any of that advice.
No.
But, I mean, you can piece it all together.
I think he thought we wanted him on to discuss this case in Jersey. I think that's why.
He did provide more background on that.
Yeah.
You guys, was he researching the case in Jersey, which sounds fascinating?
He knew. He did sound like a foremost expert on the mafia.
Yeah. That's true. He did sound like that. I wish there was a way that I could convey to you guys right now how we could do it off air in a way that I can't right now. The idea of how I think it would be funny to end this segment by calling George back and just having him make some sort of Art Briles joke.
Oh, we have a caller on the line. His name is Vinny. Yeah. He's on line one, and he sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Well, I mean, Vinny, of
this
course.
is the vetting that we're doing now?
Just go with it. Just go with it. Just go with it. Try him out. Give him a try.
Go ahead, Vinny. What do you got?
Hey, guys, great show. Listen, this is how it's done on the streets. Listen, you pay someone some money. You say, hey, I got a problem with this guy over here. End of game. End of the deal, man.
Okay, that's very helpful. More helpful than George. Guillermo, put it on the poll. Who was more helpful, George or Vinny? It wasn't great information either.
I had some follow-up for Vinny.
Is he still there, or did we lose Vinny?
No, he's gone.
Okay, that's too bad. Back to his shadowy netherworld.
You can listen to the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio, and you can watch on ESPNU.